Good evening and welcome to tonight's installment of the CUNY Academy, where we're building responsible voters one video at a time. And with us today is a special guest, Miss Bonity.
Thank you. Governor Quinn, we're delighted that you could take time and visit us in the CUNY Academy today. Could you please tell us a little bit about your duties as governor?
Yes. As governor, all right, I would be the chief executive for the state. And as you know, all executive branches are chosen by the voters, all members of the executive branch, which is different from the U.S. I'm the chief executive, so I would be responsible for enforcing the laws, appointing key administrators for different positions like board of gaming, for gambling, education, stuff like that. Propose a yearly budget, which probably upsets a lot of people with what's in that budget, especially teachers. And then I would grant reprieves and pardons. Any criminal offenses that were committed, I can shorten that sentence or pardon you and basically let you off the hook for that. That actually my predecessor, one of my predecessors, Mr. Ryan, who just got out of jail, actually did that to all the people on death row as well. And then if there is an executive office that is vacant, I would fill that vacancy until the next elections, assuming somebody retired or something like that. And if the Senate seat becomes vacant for some reason, let's say our senator becomes president, I would just sell that off to the highest bidder. Not quite. All right, hopefully you got the humor in that one.
Thank you. Can you tell us can you give us an example of a time when you as governor would need to call the National Guard?
Certainly, Ms. Bonity, yes. We would call it the National Guard in instances of floods or natural disasters. Perhaps a lot of times on the Mississippi River, there'd be need to build sandbags and things like that. Rarely for military purposes. It's more to come to the aid of the citizens of the state. I would also call special sessions of the General Assembly. In fact, I did that last year when they had not resolved the pension crisis, and I made them all come back in and told them they weren't going to get paid until they had resolved it. It didn't go over too well with people because I was still getting paid. And that would give executive orders just as the president would, basically commanding executive agencies to do various things.
So just as the president is the chief executive for the nation, you're the chief executive for the state. And as such, can you talk about your power in making addresses regarding state policy?
Yes, every year in January there is the State of the State address, not to be confused with the State of the Union address. What a clever name of the State of the State. And as you can see with Mr. Blagojevich here, their state wasn't in too good of a spot with him. And then I also give a budget address trying to win over support or passage of that. Not really highly televised, but one of my responsibilities in the Constitution.
When we're looking at the powers of the governor in relation to lawmaking, can you speak a little bit about when there would be an opportunity for an amendatory veto?
Excellent. Yes, as you see here on the board, I have 4 different veto powers. Now, as president, President Obama only has one. He can do a total veto, and that's it. He either says yes or no to a bill as it exists. Okay, but there is something called a line item veto that's written in the Illinois Constitution, which allows me to, on spending or appropriations bills, I can cross off certain lines that I don't like in that bill. Okay, so for example, if the bill says that Mundelein High School was going to get $15 million to build a new science wing, I could go to that bill and just cross off that spending item. The bill would still pass, all the other schools would get their money, but Mundelein High School would not. But we're of course going to get that money because I did not line item veto that. Go science wing. I could also do a reduction veto where I just reduce the spending. I might say, well, Mundelein's going to get 20 mil. I don't like that. I'm going to cross that down to 10. And then that goes into law. Okay. To override any of these, if the legislature doesn't like it, it would be a 3/5 vote. Not to be confused with the U.S. Constitution, which requires a Ms. Bonity?
2/3 vote.
All right. So we got to making sure we compare differences with U.S. and Illinois Constitution there. All right. And then finally, the amendatory veto that I was originally asked about. This is where I essentially can rewrite a bill. Okay, my predecessor, Mr. Blagojevich, shout out to him in prison. He had a bill passed giving money to the Chicago Transit Authority, and in that money to the Transit Authority, he said that yes, I'll approve the money, but I'm going to amend the bill to say that senior citizens can ride for free. So the legislature passed a bill giving money, and I amended that bill to say seniors can ride for free. So if you know a senior citizen in Chicago, they love Blagojevich because they don't have to pay for the train, the bus, or anything else. Okay, and his hope was that would they would vote him back into power, or at least not let him get impeached because he gave him free bus rides. Didn't quite work out that way.
Mr. Quinn, we really appreciate your time here today. And just to clarify, the president does not have a line item veto?
Yes, the line item veto is only in the for state governors. It's in most state constitutions. They did give the power to President Clinton for 2 years, and it was declared unconstitutional in the case of Clinton versus New York. So it's actually a nice trivia question. There are actually 2 presidents that have had the line item veto. Bill Clinton is one, and Ms. Bonadies and I will give you bonus points if you're the first kid to tell us the other president in class. All right, so we're going to turn it over to Ms. Bonadies now as we bring in our next special guest.
Oh, hi. I am Mrs. Bonadies right now, and I'm going to be the Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, so Mr. Kuhn back now. All right, sounds like Mr. Quinn. We're going to interview Ms. Sheila Simon, who is our current Lieutenant Governor. Would you tell us, Ms. Simon, what your responsibilities are and any changes that have taken place with regards to your office in the last year?
Yes, I'm the Lieutenant Governor. Currently, I'm the Lieutenant Governor because Governor Quinn, who you just heard from, assumed the office of governor following Governor Blagojevich's trip to prison. And I fill in the instance if the governor dies or is impeached. And basically my responsibilities, I run various administrative assignments and I do whatever the governor tells me to do. New this year, I'm not running again. However, our governor, Quinn, is running on the same ticket with Paul Vallis. That's a new change this year, that the governor and lieutenant governor run together.
So in the old days, you got to run by yourself, so that had to be pretty nice. But now you just run with him, so you don't know campaigning, no extra expenses, and hopefully we get a lieutenant governor and governor that get along. All right, moving along, we're going to bring in our next guest. This is Attorney General Lisa Madigan. And yes, if you recognize that name, it is because her father is the Speaker of the House and beloved by so many teachers, if you can read through the sarcasm. So, Ms. Madigan, would you tell us a little bit about your responsibilities and what you do for our great state?
I am the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for the state and the Chief Legal Officer. It keeps me very busy here in Illinois.
And as law enforcement officer, so when the General Assembly passes a bill, it is your job to enforce that. Does that always happen?
No, as a matter of fact, I made the decision, which was controversial, not to enforce the parental notification for abortion law that was passed by the Illinois General Assembly. So my office did, under my direction, choose not to enforce this.
Very good. Well, we might be hearing your name soon if there's a Supreme Court vacancy, because there's rumors Mr. Obama would be considering you for higher offices. So good luck, Ms. Madigan. All right, we're going to turn it back over to Ms. Bonadies as our next special guest comes in.
Oh, here, welcome. Thank you. He just arrived. Our next special guest is Secretary of State Jesse White. Mr. White, can you please tell us your responsibilities as Secretary of State?
Certainly, I would bet most of you I'm your favorite cabinet member, and probably the one you're most familiar with, because I guess I gave you your driver's license, so hopefully you're putting it to good use. All right, so basically I would give you your driver's license, also your license plates and titles. You know where my office is, over in Libertyville. I have several of those with my picture nice and bright there, so kind of you can vote for me at the same time. I also maintain the records of the state, register any corporations that want to exist here, and all legal documents for the state of Illinois have to have my seal on them. So I kind of take care of kind of the paperwork side of things. All right. You also know there's a U.S. Secretary of State that deals with foreign affairs, totally different from the driver's license thing. So Illinois, we're just focusing on licenses and records and things like that. Okay, this is Mr. Q. Now we're going to have 2 more officers to go through, and we're going to interview Ms. Judy Bartopinka. You're probably too young to remember, but she ran for governor in 2010 and lost to Blagojevich. Yes, lost to Rod Blagojevich, if you can believe that one. So you might want to go to YouTube and look up Judy Bartopinka and rolling pin. But we won't ask you about that, Ms. Topinka, but can you tell us about the Comptroller?
Thank you. As Comptroller, I'm the Chief Fiscal Officer for the state, and I manage the transactions made within the budget. I think those of you listening tonight, your parents will be very happy when they receive an envelope from me this spring, the tax refund.
Hopefully some of you will get that tax refund also from the great state of Illinois. All right, so you're the one spending the money. Any money that comes out of the budget comes through you. And here's our last guest.
Oh, thank you. We have today, now Mr. Rutherford is here as the state treasurer.
Thank you, Ms. Bonadies. And besides running for governor, I'm also the state's banker. So basically any money that comes into the state through taxes and fees and things like that would go through my office. So I kind of supervise those transactions and take care of taking it in before the comptroller spends it. Now you might wonder why the heck Illinois has somebody to spend the money and make the money. But there actually have been proposals to eliminate these offices and combine them into one, saving us a good close to $1 million. But what's $1 million to Illinois taxpayers? Okay, and easy way to remember this, or maybe a difficult way to remember this, and I hope Mrs. Kuhn is not listening, but since both of these deal with money, a lot of kids often confuse them. But the banker, the male, is the one that takes in the money and makes the money, and the female comptroller is the one that spends the money. Okay, so if that helps you remember things, so be it. All right, so we will close out here. All right, thank you for listening to Kuhn Academy. This is Mr. Kuhn and
This is Bonity signing out.
Building Responsible Voters, one video at a time. Good luck on your Constitution test, and please come with many questions on Wednesday.